Hi, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion series here at Its Time. Today, we're going to be talking about curing dataphobia, so how we can build trust when it comes to evidence-based climate solutions. I'm Crista Buznea. I'm head of social and community at Ecologi, and I'm so excited because in this session, we're going to be covering a lot about trust and how we build trust in an evidence-based climate solutions world. I think it's really interesting because with social media, disinformation, and there's so much that goes on in the world, it can be really hard for ordinary people to work out what kind of climate solutions are effective and where to find the right information on climate. So we're really lucky today to be joined in discussion by Ezra Neale, who's the Director of Forest Monitoring and Evaluation at Eden Reforestation Projects. We also have Diego Saez Gil, the co-founder and CEO at Pachama. And we also have still Steve Malkin, the founder of Planet Mark. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's going to be a great session. We're going to start with our first question that we have today. We're going to dive straight in. So what do you guys think are the challenges for ordinary people to finding true, reliable information about climate change? Do you think this is a social media problem? Is it fake news? Or is it another problem? Is it something else? What do you think? I'm going to start us off with Diego.
Thank you, Crista. Thank you for having us on this panel. And as a way of introduction about our work, Pachama is a technology startup that uses satellite data and machine learning to measure and monitor forest restoration and conservation projects that then receive carbon credits and are aiming to sequester carbon to solve climate change. So our focus is on using data to accelerate the climate solution of nature restoration. And to your question, I think that one bigger problem that we have not only on climate but on politics and in general in media is that oftentimes the media has gone the road of clickbait, and it's often the case that people just look at the headline and forward articles without actually going and reading the article or going deeper into the sources of data on an article. And I think it is very important that we always do that farther step of researching where the data is coming from, who are the institutions that are backing the data. And I think when it comes to climate, you have two kind of like extremes of, in one hand, people that are trying to deny climate change and putting information that is confusing. And then on the other hand, you have people that go the catastrophic route of like, there's no solution and the ice will melt next year and we have 10 years to avoid extinction of humanity, which is also not the case, right? So I think it's important to find more nuanced sources. And there are several amazing scientific institutions, research institutions that are curating papers and putting them out there. I can name a few, but I think that, yes, I think that the problem is this, not going one step farther. And I think that's the responsibility of every individual as we relate to information.
That's really helpful. Following that substance, going for substance over style, I think.
Yeah.
What do you think, Steve?
Hi, thank you, Krista. Steve Malkin. I run a company program called the Planet Mark, and the Planet Mark is a certification for organizations who are measuring and reducing carbon emissions on an annual basis. So they're always cutting their carbon. And many of these companies are also measuring their contribution to society, called social value. So every single one of these companies turn to, say, the Planet Mark, and they'll provide evidence-based data to show that actually what they may be saying is actually backed up by truth. And that's the job of a certificate or a standard like ours, I suppose. So we care very, very deeply, obviously, about getting trusted information into the public domain and to people, so that people can then make really informed decisions. And right now is a time where those decisions are extremely important. We're seeing this mass change, this mass awareness, this movement, this catalyst for change, and change for the better and change for the good. And so we're in a transformational time. So where do people find that great information? And I think I love what you're saying, Diego. I totally agree. It's that extra step about actually finding out if what you're consuming is likely to be true. and can it be trusted? And therefore, can you trust yourself to pass that information on? Or can you trust yourself to take action on that piece of information? So I just think that there's that sort of readily available sources of information, which might be, I just happen to read The Guardian quite a lot in the UK, and it's really consumable. Every single day there's a story that is, it might be quite a challenging topic, but but it is something that I can relate to. I'm very sort of, on board with what you're saying also, Diego, about fake news and this sort of denial of climate change versus the sort of powerlessness that comes through the sort of catastrophic sort of news. And we're in that sort of middle ground about actually positivity. This next 10 years is critical, a decade of action, and it's a time where we can actually turn this thing around. We hope. So I sort of look out for, and I think people could be looking out for good news sources like The Guardian or the BBC or NASA or the Met Office. So you have really great pieces of information, but in a very, very consumable way. And so that can help. And if you're double checking, look for evidence-based data. Where's it sourced? Is there some standard or certification that it's supported by to say that actually some truth is being told here?
Yeah, that's really, really helpful. Thank you so much, Steve. Certification is key, and there are great solutions out there that monitor. We're very, very lucky. The world has come a long way in the last 10 years. Ezra, what do you think about these challenges for people finding reliable information? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, thank you, Crista. Yeah, it's great to be here. Great to be on the panel. Thanks again for the opportunity. My name is Ezra Neale. I work with Eden Reforestation Projects. It's a nonprofit organization based in Southern California. Founded in 2004. We work in 8 different countries doing reforestation, very much a hands-on, practical reforestation organization that's planting. We just actually hit our 400 million tree mark since we were founded. So quite a large scale. It's pretty amazing how far come, but a lot more to do as we're getting these calls for the 1 trillion trees are needed to abate climate change. These kind of, the enthusiasm's there, the media is there behind this push. But I agree with what's been said. Also, there's the glossy, the glossy cover page of the climate solution being reforestation. But then if you dig a little deeper and you look at, a lot of the reforestation that's being actually not true native reforestation. We've got that. I guess the point is that not all reforestation is equal. If you have a monoculture of eucalyptus or something like that, it may cover a huge, vast area of the planet and may be very much contributing to climate change, but it doesn't have those associated biodiversity values and other values that you would get out of a forest. So I think that's the key, is how do you a little deeper and really understand the issue as a consumer, a person interested in contributing to climate change and getting involved, and then finding those organizations that are proving what they're doing, having the evidence that showing what they're doing on the ground, and able to back up what they say. So it really connects to the activities that are happening on the ground through certification, as we've mentioned, and through other forms of very basic evidence, photography, and other simple tools that can be used to identify those projects and say that they are real and really happening where they are happening.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. There's so much that can be done through artificial intelligence, which I know is something that is being explored a lot. No, that's excellent. And what do you think, is there anything people that can do to protect themselves from disinformation about climate? There's so much fake news out there, and we covered this at the beginning. What do you think? What do you think people can do to truly protect themselves? Let's go, Diego.
Sure. Again, I think that it's super easy to, when it comes to climate change, to fall into fear, right? It's an existential threat, right, to survival of our civilization. So when it comes to this type of challenges, it's very easy to fall into fear. And fear is an emotion that sometimes is paralyzing and sometimes leads us to not act rationally. So I think that it's always important a call to calmness, to, yes, fear is valuable information. It tells us that this is important, but then move beyond fear into inquiry. And this inquiry is really, again, we want to each person individually form our own opinion, right? And the way that we form opinions is by going and looking at the data. And today we have a lot of data available freely, like never before in the history of humanity, right? So when it comes, for example, to forest, there is the Global Forest Watch, which is an initiative by the World Resource Institute, by which you can go and see deforestation and forest change all over the world. FAO, the food organization, on their website has a lot of information about the state of forests worldwide. When it comes to climate, NASA is putting, very valuable information. NASA Climate. And like that, there's plenty of resources. Our World in Data is another organization I follow, ourworldindata.org, that visualizes a lot of really cool charts about climate and many other things. And again, so I think that when it comes to gathering information to take action, it's important to move beyond fear and ground our opinions on data and facts. And data is beautiful, actually. When you start playing around with interactive charts, you can actually learn a lot of cool things.
Absolutely, I love that. Data is beautiful, and we need to move away from fear mongering. Great insight there. Ezra, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, yeah, for Eden and just my background, I've always had an interest in working directly with local communities, putting this advancement in technology, putting that in the hands of the local communities and allowing them to tell their story from the ground. So we, at Eden Reforestation Projects, we use a lot of these basic tool that we use every day. The smartphone is actually revolutionary for monitoring, for collecting photography from the field, from a reforestation site, in the hands of someone that's actually planting those trees in Madagascar, in Nepal, wherever it might be. And having that very simple tool being able to tell a very rich story of the initial exploration of a reforestation site to the planting, the tree growth over time, these kind of things, but told through the eyes of those that are actually doing the work on the ground. So that's that other side of the coin. I mean, the satellite imagery, I agree, is just getting so incredible. AI is advancing so quickly. So how can we bring those two together, both the information that comes directly from the field, from those reforestation sites, make that available, but also have the satellite imagery that's becoming available, and tell that story in a rich and colorful way, because it is very rich and colorful, reforestation and making this world a better place. It's exciting. It's an amazing opportunity to get involved with. It is very real when it's not glossed over, the facts of what's happening and how to make it a reality.
Great. No, that's really helpful. And just this one's an interesting one. So offsets and this whole world of climate solutions, this is there's a lot of technology in there, and there's a lot of language that people don't normally understand. There's different carbon reduction projects that reduce other industries' carbon emissions through maybe solar projects or wind projects, and then there's nature-based solutions which focus a lot on nature projects and reforestation and conservation. And there's so much out there. And I guess a key question is, what should people truly look out for in trying to find reliable, reputable, real climate solutions? There's so much in the market. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I think there's an awful lot of information out there, and there's a lot of data, and things are moving really fast now. So it's almost been a matter of keeping pace. Everyone's got to keep pace. First of all, I think that it really helps if you're naturally curious, right? If you're just founded on this piece, I'm curious and I want to learn more so I can do better. Yeah, and so that's about knowledge building. So if you maintain curiosity, inside curiosity is a bit about skepticism as well. So you can challenge things and unpick them and find out what's best. So it's always about, if everyone is saying, okay, to take responsibility for my own actions, I want to learn a little bit more every single day. And this stuff that you guys are talking about, stuff which is so exciting. I want to know more. Yeah, I want to know, Ezra, what you're doing. Diego, I want to see how you're doing it. And that's the sort of curiosity that we really love. What we're super excited to hear about is so many ambitious targets set around net zero carbon. Now, if we talk about net zero carbon, that means, okay, number one is we're going to be reducing our carbon emissions. But right now, also, we're going to be buying into renewable energy, and also we're going to be left with some carbon. To get down to real net zero, you're going to have to offset. Okay, that's it. That's where we are right now. We're going to be offsetting. So how can we do that? And for us, it's about bringing the best of people, technology, and nature together. Because if we can work technology, people, and nature together, get the best of them, make them work in harmony, then we'll get really great solutions, not just from a climate and carbon point of view, but from a nature and biodiversity point of view. So what you should look out for, I think that you should look for projects like the guys are running, which are backed up with evidence-based data that their project is actually delivering on the ground, both from an environmental point of view, which might be, a carbon credit is locked in or stored or taken out of the atmosphere. And secondly, that it's got socio-economic benefit, which I think is what Ezra was talking about. And those are the sort of projects you should be looking for. Perhaps anything with good reporting on the UN Sustainable Development Goals is also a bonus. Yeah. So, but it's underpinned, I think, by that sort of healthy, optimistic curiosity, which is increasing our knowledge around sustainability issues. And I think that underpins some of the great work we could then be doing.
Yeah, no, that's really really comprehensive. Thank you so much, Steve. I think historically offsetting has had such a bad reputation for many years, and there were issues with double counting for projects, and was the money really going towards those types of solutions? So the world has moved on so much since then, and we now have incredible technology that we can use, including satellite technology, to see how those forests grow, and we can actually see each individual tree that is planted. So this is what's really exciting about the direction that we're moving in, what's available today. Ezra, it would be really great to hear what your perspective on people should look out for when it comes to real climate solutions.
Well, I think this whole idea of carbon it's a challenging one for people to grab onto. What is carbon? It's not really tangible. It's not something that you can hold or understand. But I've spent a lot of time in my career. I was working with REDD+ and carbon projects in the past, and working with local communities. And I would always say, to break it down to the very basic element, is that carbon is our trees. I mean, carbon is stored in trees. Protecting and planting trees and growing trees is that which removes carbon from the atmosphere. So it's a very basic thing when it comes down to it. So it's not different than protecting and restoring the planet. So it's that by doing that and doing that well, that's what's going to reduce our impact on the climate. So I think that's just a way to break it down and to think about it. I mean, I do it every day for myself when I get into, carbon calculations and things like that. I'm like, this is really about planting and growing trees, protecting trees. And that's kind of the fundamental basis of what we're doing. Of course, there's a lot of nuance, but that's kind of bringing it back to the basic facts of what we're trying to do as an individual, as someone working in this field, as a global community. What we're trying to do is protect forests, plant forests, restore what's been lost, and that's going to get us going down the right road. Of course, there's so many other solutions and important solutions: energy efficiency, industrial modifications that we can make to improve what we do as a society as a whole. But just when it comes to forests, that's kind of the basic foundation to look for, protecting and restoring nature.
That's amazing. That's excellent. And Diego, it'd be really good to hear your perspective on this, because I know Pachama does a lot of work on conservation and reforestation.
Yes, absolutely. Our very purpose is to bring the latest on remote sensing data and artificial intelligence to validate, monitor forest restoration and conservation projects, to assure the integrity of the claims to keep projects accountable and to give trust to the system. And this is something that, it's actually only possible as of a couple of years, to be honest. While we have satellites on orbits since the 80s, we didn't really have the ability to process enormous amounts of data, and we didn't have the state of the art that we have today on artificial intelligence. We use deep learning, which is a technique that trains itself on data and then can make predictions that are incredibly accurate. And all these tools need to be put at the service of bringing more transparency to the world of carbon offsets. Because it's true that in the past, lack of data has led to lack of trust and has led to some bad players as well, unfortunately, which was not the rule, but these few bad apples have reduced the credibility of these frameworks. And today it's more important than ever to be sending funding to restore and conserve nature, but we had to make sure that the frameworks are credible. In addition to the work that we do, there is a very important work of the carbon registry certification bodies, such as Verra, Climate Action Reserve, American Carbon Registry, the gold standard. And it's very important when people support projects to check for these certifications. On top of those certifications, we're adding a layer of additional data that can be consulted on our website and on reports that we prepare. And there's going to be ever more data available, and it's important for people to not just, similar to the news, not just stay on the first headline, but go one step farther. Make sure that where you're putting the money is certified, transparent projects, because it's also unfortunate that it's going to happen that bad players will try to take advantage of all this enthusiasm of people to support projects through through different platforms. So it's super important for people to make sure that they put the money in good projects. And yeah, I agree that offsets, we need to move the world beyond fossil fuels. That's the number one thing. But even if we were to do that tomorrow, we still need to remove carbon from the atmosphere, and we still need to recover the ecosystems that support life and the very intricate ecosystems that we have on our planet. So that's super important to continue supporting reforestation and forest conservation projects, and anybody can do it. Companies can do it, individuals can do it, governments should do it. So it's important to advance this field, and that's what we're hopefully trying to do all together here.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And with natural climate solution, again, you're dealing with the actual problem of carbon being in the atmosphere, and these projects actively suck the carbon out of the air rather than just relying on another industry to decarbonize. So it's very active. I think it's fascinating what we're hearing, and there's so much when it comes to actually having the data, having the certification, having the granular evidence of these projects. And we're in a position nowadays where there are auditors going to see the sites to check that the trees have been planted. So there's so much more evidence now than we ever used to have. And with satellite and AI data, there's a lot out there that people can trust. I think there was a very good point about storytelling as well, where this data can be quite clunky. But if we analyze it and if we curate it, we can position it in a way that we tell stories about communities and about people that are on the ground looking after these products to build credibility. I have one more question to ask, and it's one for the viewers really. So what do you think? If there's one thing that people watching in today, tuning in today, can take away from its time, what's the one thing to help them make more informed decisions about the climate solutions that they support? What do you think, Ezra?
Well, I think just it goes back to a lot of what's been discussed on the panel is taking that extra step, digging a little deeper, understanding which organizations are out there doing really good work, understanding the certifications that are out there that you want to look for. I agree, certification is an important tool. But then also, yeah, how can you make the biggest impact from your partnership with an organization and really giving back to a direct outcome from what you're trying to do? A little bit can go a long way towards this solution, as we've seen everyone giving a little bit towards the solution can make a huge impact. So yeah, finding those organizations out there that are doing the good work, making it happen on the ground, and truly giving back. So yeah, there's a lot of great organizations out there, and the number are continuing to grow, and we'll need a global effort of lots of partners doing amazing work to make this really happen.
That's very true. Thank you so much, Ezra. What do you think, Steve?
I think that and apologies for my light. I was by this wonderful window and all the natural light's gone, so I'm a little bit dark now. Apologies, but I think there's something about enthusiasm. It's like a superpower, right? Enthusiasm can get so much done. Yeah, and enthusiasm enables you to build your knowledge and curiosity and about actually what role am I playing here on planet Earth right now at this seminal moment in time that is going to really make a difference. And I'm going to love doing it because in actual fact, we have these amazing conversations, don't we, like this, where we learn so much more and then actually inspires us to go and do something. So I think enthusiasm is something that we've all got, and we can then just deploy it. And I would ask people to deploy it in two ways. If you're working within an organization or a household, I think in fact, just getting on with sort of understanding and becoming carbon literate and understanding the effects on biodiversity that we're all having right now is really important. And two, so do work in your own home and in your own organization and get that underway with your enthusiasm. The second thing is, in any money or anything that you're choosing to spend, think about spending with organizations who are doing a great job. What are the brands that you can trust and buy into? Because they're out there saying, listen, we've got evidence-based data to tell our story that underpins our story. You can trust us, we're authentic, and we're doing a great thing. Buy into those brands and try to leave those who aren't doing it behind, because they have to change. Yeah. So number one, though, enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. Amazing. I love that. Diego, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, so when it comes to where to find out more about solutions to climate change, one great resource is Project Drawdown, which is a nonprofit that is studying all the different solutions and the impact that each of them can have at a global scale. And then for people that want to get involved on those solutions, then you can see which one is calling you and then get involved in that solution. And then, yes, I would second Steve, is each of us responsibility to also make a change on our lifestyles, to be honest. It's us, each individual, each one of the 7 billion humans who are driving this system that is destroying the planet. So it's about taking responsibility, changing our habits. I am from Argentina and I became a vegetarian, which is, not an easy thing to do for an Argentinian, but I think that there are many individual choices that we can make to steer the ship of how we are running this planet. And then, of course, yes, get involved, be an activist within your organization. And I think that we can, as Steve said earlier, we can steer the ship this decade. The next 2 decades are key decades. And I do deeply believe that we can avoid the worst of the climate crisis and leave a better planet for future generations.
Amazing. Wow. Some great advice in there. Lots of enthusiasm. We're all ready for action. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much to Ezra, Diego, and Steve for all of your input in this session. And thank you so much for everyone that's watching at home. I hope you're energized after this talk. I certainly am. So thank you very much to everyone for tuning in, and hope you enjoy the next session.